Hey guys, my name's Chad. Welcome back to Hidden Valley Hunts. So today we're diving into the basics of a compound bow, whether you're just beginning your journey with archery or you're more experienced and just looking to get a bit better as well. So here we have a introductory bow as well as a flagship bow, and we're going to go through a bit of the differences. Starting with the introductory bow, this is your pretty standard bow that you can get as a ready to hunt package from Cabela's or your local archery shop. It's going to come with everything you need to get out in the field and start putting arrows downrange. Um, they're going to be probably a little bit heavier. The sights are going to be a little bit different. There's going to be some components that further on in your journey you're going to want to upgrade. But for now, this type of bow will definitely get you in the field and shooting arrows downrange. Now here we have a flagship bow. This is a PSE Mach 30 DS. This is my personal bow. It's a full carbon bow with upgraded strings, a permanent quiver with micro diameter carbon wrapped arrows. This is something that will be a flagship bow, your top of the line bow. Um, it's amazing, and there's definitely benefits to the carbon over the aluminum, but what it really comes down to is your personal preference as well as what your budget will allow. So when it comes to your bow, your compound bow, they are a fairly personal item. Um, some of the things that you'll need to figure out is your draw length and your draw weight. You'll need to get the bow set up through your local archery shop as well. They'll be able to help you with everything that you need, but your bow is fairly personal to you, and it's hard to pick up somebody else's bow and give it a go, um, and really know what you're doing and expect a decent level of accuracy. The next thing we're going to talk about is arrows. There's a number of different arrows and different makeups. Um, we got your carbon diameter or your carbon arrows, your full metal jacket arrows, your micro diameter arrows, and so they all have their little benefits. But what we're really going to talk about is arrow weight versus arrow speed. Um, a lot of people like a heavier arrow for bigger game. It's going to help increase penetration, but a lighter arrow also gives you better speed and is more suited for smaller game like white-tailed deer. So here we have the Beast broadhead. It's about a 2-inch diameter cut, mechanical broadhead with bone avoiding technology. It's a great broadhead for all types of game. It's going to have a huge cutting diameter, super sharp blades that deploy on impact. So here we have a small game tip. As you can see, it's a blunt end with 4 wires poking out. Now the wires are there not necessarily to cut through the animal, but what they will do is actually catch the ground, causing the arrow to tip up and not embed itself in the ground. That is a great way to lose arrows. And here we have your basic field point. This is a field point that you're basically only going to use on targets. This is not for hunting, but this is a great way to get arrows downrange without causing a lot of damage to your targets or dulling your broadheads. So here we have your basic wrist trigger release. This is the one I use. It's the one I'm most comfortable with. There are a number of other releases out there, like a thumb button release or a hinge, and so on. What it comes down to is find what works best for you, and stick with it. Don't be afraid to try and experiment a little bit as well. I find this is what works best for me. Find out what works best for you. All right, so now we're going to talk about your bow sight. You got a bunch of different bow sights. This one here is your basic static 3-pin, where you can set the yardages for each individual pin, but the sight itself doesn't move, so you have to use holdovers when shooting downrange when your target is not at the range of one of your pins. You move over to more of a flagship style bow. This here is a 3-pin sliding sight, so I can adjust. I have my pin set to 20, 30, and 40 yards, but also on my 40-yard pin, I can adjust a sliding sight to whatever yardage I want, being 40, 50, 57, whatever it needs to be. And now we're going to talk about the stabilizer. Lots of people have different stabilizers, lots of different weights. I'm running a fairly small stabilizer, as this is a full carbon bow, and I built it to be fairly light and packable for backcountry hunts. So my stabilizer on this bow is is fairly short and fairly light. I actually run the same stabilizer on my basic bow. It is slightly shorter because I actually have found some benefits from a medium length stabilizer on my flagship bow. But once again, I run a smaller and lighter stabilizer. You're going to want to find out what works best for you. So please feel free to experiment. You can also get a back bar stabilizer, which I do not use in the hunting world because I'm looking for a more packable bow that is easier to carry around. All right, so here we got our beginner's bow. It's going to come with your very basic, what's called a whisker biscuit arrow rest. It is right here. An arrow goes right through the center hole, and the fletches go through the whisker biscuit. It's going to take a bit of kinetic energy and speed off your arrow, but it's going to get the job done for you. Here on a more flagship style bow, I decided to put on a Hamsky drop away rest. So when you put your arrow in the rest and you drop back, the arrow rest actually pops up to hold the arrow at a perfectly level point. And this one is limb driven. So when you release the arrow, it actually drops away that rest and the arrow is free floating from that point on. This is going to give you the most efficient release and a clean release as well. The last thing we're going to talk about here is the quiver. I unfortunately don't have a quiver on this bow, but here I have a fully attached quiver. They do come with quivers that are detachable from your bow if that's something that you're looking for. But as I'm like to be hunting in the backcountry, I don't want to take my quiver off my bow and put it down somewhere. So I decided to go with a two-piece attached one. I find it to be super light, super packable, and not that different when in high wind conditions. So one thing we're going to talk about a ready to hunt package and your introductory level bow is this is a whole package. It's going to come with everything you need to get in the field. When you start to step up to more of your flagship bows, it's going to come as a bare bow and you're going to need to buy all the accessories separately. So it's going to be much more of a custom bow. It's also going to come with more of a custom price. One thing I do want to talk about is a little bit of safety tips, I guess. Some of the things that you should never do, and I know this from experience, is never dry fire your bow. That means never draw back the bow and release it without an arrow. These bows are designed to create a huge amount of kinetic energy and transfer that kinetic energy into the arrow. They're not designed to reabsorb it. One more thing that you should think about is when drawing back your bow, try not to sky draw. A sky draw is where you hold the bow up, because if you're doing that and you accidentally release the trigger with arrow in it, that arrow can go quite a ways, and who knows what you're going to hit. Another thing, if you accidentally release the arrow early, especially if you're sky drawing or drawing low, is you will release it and then you will punch yourself in the face because your hand is coming back at you quicker than you think. So one of the last things I want to talk about is what kind of bow you should be looking at. Now, when you're looking at a bow, you should think always, what's your personal preference, but most importantly, what's your budget? These bows can vary in price from a few $100s to a few $1,000s. And one thing I can't stress enough is the bow you shoot does not make how good of a hunter you are. This is my biggest buck to date, give or take about 180 inches, although I've never had him officially scored, and it was shot with my introductory bow just as well as my flagship bow. Got my buck 2 years ago, or last year buck, and this buck. So the bow you shoot isn't going to make how good of a hunter you are. They both kill the same. You're both going to have success with both level of bows, but choose the bow that best fits your budget.